So this is our second video in the tubercular spine video series. In this video we will discuss about the cold abscess. So cold abscess basically consists of tuberculous granulation tissue, caseous material, necrotic material, abscess or pus, serum and disintegrated bony lamellae. So why it is known as cold abscess? Because the typical feature of abscess, which are increased temperature, tenderness, swelling, redness, they are typically absent in these type of abscess. That is the reason these are known as cold abscess. Talking about the location of the abscess, how they present in the cervical spine first. Now in cervical spine they can present either as behind the prevertebral fascia between the vertebral body and the pharynx, which is the retropharyngeal abscess. So anteriorly we have the pharynx and posteriorly we have the vertebral body. So it appears between them, which is in the prevertebral region and retropharyngeal region. Or it can present as a lateral to the posterior triangle of the neck and at the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. So if this is the neck of the patient and this is the sternocleidomastoid muscle, so it can present here at the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, or either it can extend distally into the mediastinum. So these are the three presentation of the cervical spine cold abscess. Then we come to the dorsal spine. In dorsal spine they present as a paravertebral abscess. So in the upper dorsal spine region in C7 to D4 region they can appear as a squaring of the mediastinum, while in the mid dorsal region they appear as a fusiform swelling. So the abscess that are above the diaphragm, which is the level of D6 D7, so they tend to remain in the thorax along the course of intercostal nerves and the vessels, while the abscess which are below the diaphragm level they extend along the course of the psoas muscle. So the abscess which are in the upper dorsal region they will present in the course of the intercostal nerve and vessel, while the abscess which are below the diaphragm level they will present in the as a psoas abscess. Now talking about the lumbar spine abscess, so they typically present as a psoas abscess and they can be aspirated through the Pettit triangle. So we will discuss here the various triangle. So this is the inferior lumbar triangle here with boundaries of iliac crest inferiorly, latissimus dorsi, lateral border, medially and external oblique muscle here. So this is the inferior lumbar triangle, which is also known as the Pettit triangle, which is used for aspiration of the psoas abscess. Or it can present as a iliopsoas abscess, which can aspirate it from the Pettit triangle and the iliac fossa, or if it extends distally it can be aspirated from the femoral triangle or the Scarpa triangle. So this is the femoral triangle or Scarpa triangle at the anterior part of the thigh. So in cases of the iliopsoas abscess which present distally in this region they can be aspirated from the femoral triangle, or else they can be aspirated from the Pettit triangle. Now at the same point we may be asked about the origin and insertion of the psoas and the iliacus muscle. So psoas muscle origin, so as we can see there are two parts, major and the minor part. So talking about the major part, so here we can see here the origin of the psoas muscle. So origin is basically from the transverse process of the T12 to L4 vertebra. So T12 to L4 vertebra transverse process, this is the origin, and insertion we know is at the lesser tubercle, lesser tuberosity of the femur. And similarly we can see here the iliacus muscle. So it takes origin from the iliac fossa, iliac bone, and it get inserts on the lesser trochanter. So psoas, talking about the psoas major, so it takes origin from the transverse process of the T11 to TL4 and inserts on the lesser trochanter of the femur. Arterial supply is by the lumbar branch of the iliolumbar artery and the nerve supply is by the lumbar plexus. And talking about the iliacus muscle, so it takes origin from the upper two-third of the iliac fossa. Insertion is similar, base of the lesser trochanter. Arterial supply is the medial circumflex femoral artery and nerve supply is the femoral nerve. So it is supplied by femoral nerve and it is supplied by the lumbar plexus. So this was about the origin and insertion of the iliacus and the psoas major muscle. Now we have discussed the various type of the cold abscess. We have discussed how they present in the cervical spine, how they present in the dorsal spine, and how they present in the lumbar spine. Now the very famous question, if at all drainage of these abscesses is required. So normally the drainage of abscess is not required, because usually these abscesses are in the small amount and they are causing no pressure symptoms. But in some instances this drainage is required if it is large and fluctuant abscess, because they decrease the penetration of the drugs into it, and if it is causing any pressure symptoms. Like in retropharyngeal abscess, they can lead to dysphagia, dyspnea and mediastinal compression. And also this aspiration or drainage can be required if we require a microbiological confirmation about the organism causing these psoas abscess or any cold abscess. So what are the in general causes of the psoas abscess? So we have discussed one cause. We are discussing that tubercular spine is one of the cause, but it is not the only cause. So we should know the other causes of the psoas abscess. So first is the primary psoas abscess, where their primary pathology is the abscess itself. There is no, it has not come from any, it is not a referred abscess, it is a primary psoas abscess. So it can seen in cases of the immunocompromised patient like diabetes mellitus, IV drug abuse, HIV patient, renal failure, and in general immunosuppression patient. So all these patients can present as a primary psoas abscess, where there is only psoas abscess is present and there is no other pathology. Now talking about the secondary psoas abscess, where the psoas abscess has referred from the primary cause. So most common cause in this secondary psoas abscess is the Crohn's disease, which is the GI pathology. So here again mention, so if a patient present to us with only psoas abscess, so we should not think of a tubercular spine at the primary cause, but Crohn's disease, which is the GI cause, should be taken as the primary pathology and should be thought of. Other causes, GI causes, diverticulitis, appendicitis, colorectal cancer are the other GI causes of the secondary psoas abscess. Then there can be genitourinary causes, there can be musculoskeletal causes like vertebral osteomyelitis or TB, septic arthritis, and there can be a vascular causes like infected abdominal aortic aneurysm. Now again here important is the most common organism leading to the psoas abscess is the Staph aureus. So a patient presenting to us with psoas abscess, we should not directly start the ATT, but we should determine the causative agent. So most commonly it is Staph aureus in 88% of the primary abscesses, and in secondary abscesses it is Streptococcus in 4.9, E. coli, Mycobacterium bacilli. So tuberculous bacilli, it is common cause of the psoas abscess, but in case of the developing country, and it is uncommon in the West, but it should be noted it is not the only cause. So when a patient with psoas abscess, it should not be diagnosed as tubercular and started ATT without microbiological confirmation, as the most common cause of causing the psoas abscess without vertebral involvement is the Staph aureus. So this is the take home message here, that any patient that present to us with psoas abscess, so firstly we should not think of a tubercular spine, we should think of a immunosuppression and the GI cause as the primary cause, and also we should not think of a tubercular bacilli as the main organism, we should think of a Staph aureus as the main organism. So now we will discuss how to elicit the iliopsoas inflammation. If because we know that the psoas muscle, it leads to the pseudo hip flexion deformity. So patient will present to us with the pseudo hip flexion deformity. So we should rule out whether the pathology lies in the psoas muscle or pathology lies in the hip joint itself. So how to elicit the iliopsoas inflammation? So first is the flexion of hip against resistance will cause pain. When the patient is lie down on the normal side, that is if the right side is the involved side, then we will lie down the patient on the left lateral position. Then we will hyperextend the right hip, which will cause the pain. And also very important point here is the pseudo hip flexion deformity. So this hip flexion deformity is basically because of spasm of the iliopsoas muscle, and hip joint is normal in these cases. But how to differentiate between the two deformity is that in the cases of the spasm of the iliopsoas muscle, there is no limitation of rotation in a flexed hip. So there is no limitation of the rotation in case of the iliopsoas muscle pathology, while in cases of the involvement of the hip joint, there will be limitation of the rotation here. So that is about the cold abscess, or the more commonly psoas abscess. And we know that we have a take home message here, that most common cause is of psoas abscess is either GI cause or immunosuppression, and most common organism is Staph aureus, and it is not a tubercular bacilli.